Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, the first thing I want to say is I really commend the UK establishment when it comes to the boxing community. You know, I think they have a deeper passion in the UK when it comes to the sport of boxing. I believe their casual fans knows way more about boxing than our casual fans out here in the States know about boxing. I mean, they take everything more serious when it comes to this sport. And when I say they, I'm referring to the boxers, the trainers, the commentators, etc. For example, if you were to interview a boxer from America, Mexico, the Philippines, or any other country except for the UK, you'll get a real quick response to the question that you asked, right? But you ask a UK fighter a question and he will give you a novel, right? And that will just be the first question that you ask. I mean, he will never stop talking. We've seen this with David Haye, Carl Froch, Ricky Hatton, Amir Khan. All of them are like this. You know, it kind of reminds me of my friend that I told you guys about a long time ago. He goes by the name of Cookie Man out here. He specializes in baking cakes and cookies, and he does it all. He's won awards on some of the biggest radio stations out here in Las Vegas, etc., etc. And man, I've had him at my house a couple times for fight parties. And when you sit down and you start talking to this man about cooking, this man will never shut up, okay? I mean, he will go into the herbs, the spices, and the gravies, and how long you gotta simmer it, and making all different type of analogies and jokes of how you would slap your mama after you taste it, and he will just go on from one recipe to the next. And you have to fuck around and tell him, look, man, I gotta go to the bathroom or something, because he will never shut up, okay? And this is because this is his passion. He's talking about something that he is very passionate about. And this is what I see from the UK fans when they talk about boxing. Like I said, from the commentators to the boxers to the fans, they are very knowledgeable when it comes to the sweet science. And I know, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure, of course, you're going to always have some bad dumbasses in the bunch that's going to try to spoil it for the rest. But it seems to me that they have more educated fans out there than we do out here, comparing the casual fan out there in the UK to the dumbass casual fan out here in the States. Matter of fact, while I'm still talking about the UK, I want to give big shouts out to Boxing Beats and Rhymes, one of the best boxing channels on YouTube, the best boxing channel when it comes to the UK. And if you guys want to have a collection of some good channels to follow and get some real analytical insight when it comes to the sport of boxing, and not that cheap ass, cheerleading shit, just making videos on who you hate and who you love, I would suggest you guys subscribe to Boxing Beats and Rhymes. Good channel. Now, with that out the way, let me go ahead and get into this fight. Now, guys, when it comes to this Froch versus Groves fight, I'm going to tell you right now, this fight, it kind of reminds me of Mayweather versus Canelo. And I know you're probably saying to yourself, how is that possible? Let me explain. When I say it reminds me of the fight, I'm not talking about the results. I'm talking about the concept. The concept of the experienced lion, long in the tooth, fighting against the young, hungry lion that is ready to take him off of his throne. Now, I told you guys in videos before that when you are a champion, the most difficult thing to do is to tame the young lions. Basically fight off those young, hungry champions that are in their 20s, they're undefeated, and they are really coming out with something to prove. That is the most difficult opponent to face once you have gotten long in the tooth and you're older and you're experienced. Now, let the Canelo Alvarez fan tell you, or the person who hates the shit out of Floyd Mayweather tell you, that Floyd Mayweather, he beat Canelo Alvarez simply why? Because that young, hungry lion did not have the experience. He was too young. He wasn't ready for that opportunity. So the major question is, if that's the case, then how come Carl Froch didn't do the exact same thing to George Groves that Floyd Mayweather did to Canelo Alvarez. Here's where the similarities come into play when it comes to comparing those two fights. Floyd Mayweather was 36 years old when he fought against Canelo Alvarez. Guess what? Carl Froch is the exact same age. George Groves is 25, Canelo was 23. But when you look at the experience, both Canelo Alvarez and George Groves, they both lack the experience. Carl Froch is considered pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world, just like Floyd Mayweather is. Only difference is Floyd is considered the best fighter in the world, pound for pound. All right? But once again, look at the similarities. Canelo fans and Mayweather haters, they basically said this is the only reason why Mayweather won, because he had way more experience than his opponent. So once again, please explain to me how come the far more experienced Carl Froch struggled against George Groves. It's simply because he's not as good as a Floyd Mayweather. So contrary to popular belief by a lot of the casual fans, it is not as easy as some people suggested for the older, late 30s fighter to beat the young, hungry, energetic lion that's coming for his throne. And what George Groves proved in this fight, that even with a lack of experience, he was still better than a fighter that had far more experience than he did. A fighter who's been in the ring with Jermaine Taylor, John Pascal, Andre Ward. The list goes on and on and on, right? Skills pays the bills, okay? You think about it, like I said, Floyd Mayweather, he always says when he's fighting against these guys who's never fought on a big stage before, he always says, you know, the lights are a lot brighter when you reach this level. It's a lot different when you reach this level. And a lot of people will buckle under pressure. And what's so ironic about those statements is these are the exact same statements that Oscar De La Hoya was making in his mega fight against Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd Mayweather had never been on that big stage where the lights were so bright, Oscar was saying the same thing. He's never fought on this level, and that's going to be his downfall. And basically, Floyd Mayweather, he showed that if you have the skill, the knowledge, and the confidence in yourself, it does not matter if you've never fought on that stage before. Because Floyd Mayweather was a far better fighter than Oscar De La Hoya. And Oscar De La Hoya will go on later to say that he would have never beat Floyd Mayweather. Okay? By his own admission, this is what he said. All right? So let's get back into the fight with Carl Froch and George Groves. Now, when it came to George Groves, I was very, very impressed with George Groves. Now, the first thing that stood out is leading up to the fight, of course, we all know that Froch, he has a mouth on him. He talks a lot of shit. And he was basically saying, well, you know, let's just hope George Groves, he doesn't run and, you know, he makes it entertaining for the fans and we put on a good fight, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember George Groves was basically saying to Carl Froch, why are you basically trying to form the way that I fight? You know, you're already making excuses before the first bell even rings. You know, he said something on the lines to that, right? Which I thought was really, really deep when he said that. Because you don't really hear boxers say things this fucking intelligent, which is once again why I respect the UK fighters. They really analyze things that they say, even when they're going back and forth debating against a fighter that they're going to be fighting against very soon, right? So he basically said that, like, you know, why are you making excuses already for if you lose? So anyway, I fast forward to the night of the fight. And it turns out that Carl Froch, he got exactly what he was asking for, which is to have Groves stand right in front of him. And as we seen in that first round, that shit did not benefit Carl Froch at all. Because as we seen, Carl Froch, he got dropped with a very quick, vicious right hand right in the middle of an exchange. What made Groves' performance to me so impressive is his intelligence in the ring. he's standing right in front of Carl Froch. And like I said before, we're talking about a fighter who's pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world, has a good jab, good long-ass jab, has a big right hand. But George Groves, he knew how to basically take that away from Carl Froch. And the way he took it away is he would use feints, he would use head movement, and he would use a quick jab. And that's how he was able to set that quick right hand up. All right? And then another thing that he was able to do that I haven't really seen too many fighters do against Carl Froch is he was able to go toe-to-toe with Carl Froch and get the best of the exchanges, at least the vast majority of them. And like I just said before, Carl Froch was saying he hopes that Groves doesn't run, but as it turned out in the fight, it was actually Carl Froch that was backing up, and Groves was the one that was coming forward at least 90% of the time throughout the fight. Now, even though George Groves won the majority of all the rounds throughout the fight, credit does go to Carl Froch because he did put on a hell of a rally before the fight ended. A lot of fighters are not as psychologically strong as a fighter like Carl Froch, because usually you see a fighter starting to lose. He could see the victory slipping away from him, and that would usually make a fighter get more and more discouraged. They lose confidence, and then they start to basically just plod along and give up a lot of rounds. This is what fighters like De La Hoya would always do, and many others. But Carl Froch, he never gave up. And basically, he started to put himself back into the fight a little bit before the fight actually ended. Now we fast forward to the ending of the fight. It's already obvious if you've seen the fight that that was one of the worst stoppages in recent times. Basically, Carl Froch caught Groves with a good shot. Groves backed up to the ropes. Carl caught him with another good shot. But as he caught Groves, Groves was swinging back. Groves, he came back with a couple punches, and then he ducked, fell into a clinch. As he falls into the clinch, the referee stops the fight. I think Groves was definitely cheated when it comes to a victory in this fight. But at the same time, you got to kind of give credit to Carl Froch, because Carl was coming back pretty strong. And realistically, we really don't know how that fight would have ended. Okay, like I told you guys before, Carl Froch is a very determined fighter. Even though he was losing the majority of this fight, he was really trying to get himself back in to the fight. I would love to see a rematch. This was definitely the best fight of the weekend. A far better fight, obviously, than the Manny Pacquiao-Brandon Rios fight. I think Groves, he impressed a lot of people and surprised a lot of people. And I think he has a good chance of possibly knocking out Froch in a rematch. Because I think Carl Froch, as good of a fighter and boxer as he is, he lacks the defense. And as we seen Groves, he showed that he had a tremendous right hand. He can fight on the inside. He can fight toe-to-toe. So a rematch would be very, very interesting. And I hope we get to see it. All right, so that's really all I have to say on this one, guys. I'm on to the next one.